I'm going to share with you my top tip of how to build astronomical success when it comes to both personal and professional life. And it's a tip and lesson that I share in the book. But also, a year ago, I met David Dayan Fisher, where we explored the map, his book. How do you really start to do the inner work? And why is everything else around it just a distraction away from yourself? And that tip I want to share around astronomical confidence when it comes to both professional and personal life. Truly, how do you feel about yourself? How do you have a relationship with yourself? What does that look like? Why do you show up the way you show up? And when I think about the book and what I'm trying and going to achieve with it, it's finding that balance between the relationship you have with yourself and how does that directly influence the relationship you have with your customers. Hopefully you enjoyed this interview. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the other side.
I think we're recording. Does
Yes,
that look like we're recording?
I
think
see.
we're recording.
Now 3 seconds in. Yeah.
With 6 seconds now. Well, welcome everyone. Interviewing the greats. We're taking a bit of a shift today. We're speaking to David Fisher, who also identifies as God, and his catchphrase is "Prove me wrong." And I love this because usually what we talk about is the relationship we have with our customers or our colleagues. But today, David's going to be talking to us about the relationship we have with ourselves. So, David, without any further ado, introduce yourself. Who are you?
I am an aspect of the all that is, which so are you, and so is everybody else. The label I'm given is David Fisher or David Dayan Fisher. I was raised in London, which is a landmass with another label on it. And I could have an identity, which is was given at birth, but I don't identify with any of that anymore. I'm just kind of this experience is what I identify with.
I hear you, and I like this. I like this level of chat simply because I'm shifting away from in my personal life. I'm trying to shift away from the idea of who is Alex, and more towards why was I put here? How am I meant to serve? And I think that kind of moves very much into the work. Some of the work that you talk about. And let's see if we cover it on this chat. But if you were to give us a bit of a background of who is you, what would you say?
Who now we're talking about my earthly identity background, yeah?
Let's see what comes up for you.
So I was born in North London into a middle class family, and there was a lot of violence and arguments and friction from my parents' divorce, where I was hiding in cupboards at 3 years old, wishing I was dead, wishing the violence and noise wouldn't come and get me. And then they broke up, and the violence and this horrible vindictiveness carried on for years. And I got expelled from Sunday school, Cub Scouts, and high school, all for violence because I was full of anger. Then I became a drug taker, anything to soothe the pain of my trauma, my wounds, whatever you want to label it. And then after realizing that if I carry on like this, I'm going to be dead, I cleaned my life up, walked away from Clubland London, had an amazing time dealing drugs and taking drugs. And then I found acting. And so then I entered into a near on quarter of a century of acting. And ironically and funnily enough, all I played for 25 years was bad guys. And I was angry and violent and murdered people and died many times. I left after 5 years in England to Hollywood, where I had a great career in major movies and TV. And I really enjoyed it, killing people and dying. And it was great fun. But as I started to go on my journey and I started to read and open up and I had a terrible breakup, I then entered into the understanding of my ego. And that was the new journey that I had while I was living in my Hollywood life. I started to study who I actually was, not who I had been playing. I've been playing the character of David Dayan Fisher.
David, there's something you said there that I'd like to just quickly go back to. Was there a trigger back in the London days, before you moved to California? You talked about I was going down a particular path. I changed that. I got into acting, but was there a trigger? Was there a moment, an episode, something that happened that catapulted you into that change? Or was it just one day you thought, this isn't serving me, there's something more to life?
I don't know. I can only speak again for myself as I don't even like the word addict, but for someone who was running away from themselves and the pain, I I was doing a lot of cocaine, I was doing a lot of alcohol, I was having a whale of a time, but there was an underlying voice that knew that this was not the route, that this was the escape. And yet when I stopped or even thought about it, the pain was too much. But then what happened was I had these symptoms, should we say, of taking a lot of drugs, and I went to my family doctor, and he said, you have two choices. You either go into a clinic to clean up, or you walk away from your life, start going to the gym, start eating healthier. And he expressed to me in very basic terms what a kind of addiction is. And it made so much sense that I went, wow, I've forgotten how to be happy.
The bit I'd like to understand a little bit more around is the avoidant piece of it, because the reason I've asked that, as growing up in a house of 5 boys, being the youngest,
Right.
and certain parameters put in by certain parent, you start to think that men need to be a certain way, and it's not shut down. I don't think that's the right word, but anger is the answer to everything. Aggression, avoidance is the answer to everything. And talk to us a bit, David, about the avoidant trait. Looking back on it now, what were you covering up? What were you avoiding?
It's very interesting you say that, but within the journey of your words, you talked about the journey of your journey and not being allowed to emote, and the masculine, the boy, the little boy in the patriarchal system. Number one, all of us have been raised to be this man of the patriarchy, this man of society, and it's normality. And so because we're in it, it's like a fish in water. You say to a fish, what's water? They go, what the fuck are you talking about? In the patriarchy. But every little boy, I know it seems like it's going off, but every little boy is a little boy, and their authentic little boy self is vulnerability and sensitivity. And in the patriarchal masculine father and even the feminine mother, they have been raised where you don't do this, men do this, men do that, men don't do this, be like this, be a man, man up. Little boys are told this. They're surrounded by heroes that are manly and macho and competitive, but we're still vulnerable, sensitive little boys. So what we have to do, push that aside, hide that, repress that, suppress that, and be this, all right, now I've got to be a man. Now I'm full of shame because I'm a little boy and I can't be a man. So now what happens when I can't be what I want to be? That's where a lot of anger comes from. I can't be a man. I'm a little boy. So there's a lot of anger for not being allowed to be. The little boy should be naked in the woods, playing, running, just being himself. But he's got this pressure. So if we put a pressure on anything, there's going to be if you put a pressure on anyone, they're going to resist the pressure. So I think the anger, again, I can only speak for me, but a lot of men's anger comes from this fact that they have repressed so much that they don't know how to emote. I was told don't cry by my father. Men don't cry. Oh, but me as a little boy, remember, I like crying. And I'm going to say this. So then my mom and dad were divorced, and I would cry, and then my mum I'd say, and she'd say, it's good to cry. Real men can have the courage to cry. And I would think, Dad says this, Mum says this, but crying feels really nice. So I would cry. But then my brothers, who were my peers, I had 2 older brothers, they would ridicule me for crying. And their peer pressure was more important than what my mother said. So now I had to hide and repress my emotions, which creates an inattention and resistance, which I believe that's where anger comes from. Because if something upsets you and you want to have emotional outburst and you can't, eventually when it triggers you, all that anger because you've repressed your emotions is going to come up.
The thing I'd say to that, you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier on, is it's not I can't talk about it. I don't have the tool set to be able to. And it's only in kind of like early 20s, late 20s that I've started to understand the mechanism and tools to be able to go, well, how do I think and feel about this?
Yeah.
And I'd say it's an interesting point you mentioned that I don't like to define roles as male, female. I prefer just to look at masculine, feminine traits, because both the female can display forms of masculinity,
Absolutely.
and the males can display huge, vast quantities of feminine traits. And I don't think these are good or bad. And I don't mean feminine as in
I know it.
kind of like,
Yeah.
it's feminine traits as in nurture, as in care, and it's masculine traits as in virtue, vitality, growth, determination. And the reason for it is that it's having the tools as a younger man to be able to how do I feel safe within myself? How do I express how I feel? But the biggest thing I wanted to just highlight with what you shared, it's, for me, it's that aggressive father or dominant father,
Yes.
submissive mother, protect mum as younger child, and then that creates this wounding. This is personal experience that I've had to deal with.
I was going to say, who are you talking about? You just said it's.
Of course, I'm talking about Alex at 12 years old through childhood, right?
Right.
So that then creates protect women wounding into adolescence of my job is to serve, fix women, protect women, or the divine feminine. And then that creates this kind of like mother wounding of like only finding the women that I can fix. And it's then it kind of creates this kind of thing of I'm only valuable to a woman if I serve and meet her needs, regardless of where I'm at. And it creates this spiral. I don't know if you can talk on that or if you've experienced something similar. This idea that like you see aggressive masculinity, both male or female as a kid, that creates this I need to serve, protect wounding. And then it's then trying to unwrite that and go, well, actually, no, we're equals to. There's not a matriarchy or a patriarchy. There is, you are equal to. I am just as vulnerable, just as scared as you are.
So
it's hard to talk about that.
We are equal, masculine and feminine within each of us. I have my feminine parts, which was my vulnerability, sensitivity, my ability to emote, my ability to cry without worry. But that, again, was fashioned out of me. Now, we have to also understand that a certain aspect of how the system works, that the woman is raised because of being raised by the overtly masculine who's hidden his feminine side, his nurturing side, that the feminine then has to become more in her masculine and become more dominant to feel safe, because the masculine, the woman requires a sensitivity and the vulnerability of the masculine to feel safe. They can hold this space for the little girl when she grows up. That's the real masculine daddy, is being there for the little girl. So that
David, this is where we actually need. I'm gonna interrupt and pause.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you to double click right what you just said there, and explore the topic of what does a safe space, regardless of gender, masculine, feminine, talk about safe space, because the word vulnerability and authenticity is thrown around left, right, and center. You need to be authentic. You need to be vulnerable. All of this stuff.
Yes.
Which requires the prerequisite that I'm going to be vulnerable into a space that is safe. That if I share this, you don't throw it back at me in X amount of time. So let's talk to me about safe space. What is it to hold space for that person, either yourself, because I've got a weird story.
Right, exactly that point. If I am not safe within myself,
there you go.
Means I'm living in the wounds of my past. I am very hard for me to hold that space for someone else, because what they're going to do is trigger the wounds which are in me. I need to be that safe within myself. So talking on the subject of the relationships I have with myself, is this sovereign self that I am healed, or I've done the work to work through these wounds, these traumas, these, whatever you want to call them, samskaras, karma, but to get myself back to this original default factory setting of the little boy before he was fashioned, programmed, and conditioned, before he created interpretations, perceptions, before he took on these ideas of how he should be, to now feel sovereign in myself. Now, this space, this person, this solid, safe worthiness and self-loving, who I always was before the wounding and blindness, we should say, now this space can hold space for itself, and then anything else without projecting, without getting reactional, without blaming and complaining and feeling like somebody else is attacking them. The space holding means that you are not coming from the wounded, because the wounded space is always triggered and then blaming and projecting because it doesn't actually understand it's wounded.
So let's talk about because I saw your video the other day about you talking about blaming parents.
Yes.
And we could touch on that in a second, but the immediate passive aggressive or the immediate answer is to say, you're at fault. You're the reason I feel a certain way. You've made me feel this way. How does someone identify the trigger, breathe into it, feel into that space, and then own it? Because I think I've started to join that journey of like, I'm the only problem I'll ever have, and I'm my only solution. I'm at the start of that journey. Run me through. So how do I do that? How do I acknowledge how I feel and then hold that space for myself?
So firstly, and this is, I work with people all the time. And the first thing is how do you feel about your parents? So how you feel about your parents? Okay, they have a feeling that they have about their parents, that their parents were this. All right. How do you feel about yourself from your parents' behavior? Well, I feel like, I'm no good, I'm bad, I'm wrong. So now we have a feeling against them and a feeling against ourselves. Then I say, do you know your parents' background? Oh, yeah, my dad was this and my mum had an alcoholic mother and father. And when they tell me the story of their background, I hear a change in the voice where they step out of their wounded child and they start to see that their parents were just people who were in pain, wounded, traumatized to varying degrees, and didn't know how to operate being a parent. They had no practice, and all of the pain that they endured and all the treatment they endured literally starts playing out when they have children. Now, to truly deeply understand that, and I know there's been serious abuse, I had, whoever it was, some very, very violent stuff put on me, and I grew up with hate and anger and resentment. And to come to the understanding that that person was in great pain to do that to their little child that they obviously loved. And to come to that compassion, firstly, releases, even in my voice, I feel it, releases the anger and the tension that I hold against them. So now I'm not a victim. Once I'm not a victim, I have compassion. I can find forgiveness. Without compassion and understanding that they did the best they could where they were, and even if it was abusive, physically rape, I get it. But when we understand that they obviously had some very, very, very traumatic stuff put on them, we can find the compassion. From compassion, we can find forgiveness, because without the compassion, that you can't get to the forgiveness. So once we take that away, we now immediately relax. Well, how do I feel? Well, I feel like they didn't love. Well, we know they loved you, but they were acting blind. Okay. So now I have to understand that my responsibility is I now created the wounds about myself. I'm unworthy. I'm stupid. I'm not good, but I blame them. I blame them. So blaming them, I'm a victim. Blaming them, I'm angry. Blaming them, I have resentment. Wow, if I take compassion and forgiveness for them, the blame suddenly falls. And now oh my God, this is me. I created the story that I was unloved and unsafe.
Oh, there's the answer.
I created the story that I'm not safe and unloved and unworthy. And I've run my whole life with this story. And they love me regardless. And it might not seem like it, but wow, when people come to the realization that I actually created this belief, and now my whole life has been run off this story that I'm no good, I'm stupid, I have this critic in my head, this belittling voice. So that's the relationship I have with myself. And now my relationship, even if my parents don't change their behavior and they're still annoying as fuck, I have compassion and understanding that they're just where they are. They haven't been able to get out of that. It's a generational aspect, hand me down. you know, and so I'm now able to break the spell of the heritage of dysfunction, the heritage of trauma, to see it, forgive it, have compassion for it. That's where my healing work starts.
I think one of the most crucial things I took away from what you've just shared there is the question I've started asking myself recently is, whose narrative am I reading? And the reason I say this is because I remember something back in May 2021, right? I remember saying, oh, I think it was 2020 actually. When was the whole pandemic thing? 2020 or whatever.
Yeah.
Whenever it was, I remember I'd been at Amazon for a few months, Amazon Web Services, and I said to someone quite significant in my life, I said, I'm going to go and change the way sales is taught, first at Amazon and then globally. And this person said to me, Alex, give it up. You're not that good. You can't go and do that stuff. You need to let the better people to go and do it with more money. And my response was, I had to take just a quick breath and go, because you look at compassion, right? You go, where's this person at? Because no one, and it comes back to, actually, I got this given this saying years ago, which I love, which is somewhat, you'll never be pulled down by someone doing more than you. And it really sat with me of like people that are doing the work and they're on their journey and they're going, they don't criticize others because they know how hard it is to progress. So they only encourage or they nurture, right? Anyway, I said to this person, I said, run me through the age when you gave up on your dream. How old were you? And who convinced you to give up on it? And then this person said, "Oh, I haven't got time to talk about this. So I'll catch you another time." And then the avoidant adult came in of like protection and fear and whatever else. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to adopt this idea that you've got a limitation. You're trying to put that onto me because we started in similar places, so that's fine.
You started in similar places, but I'm going to, sorry for interrupting because it's very poignant. The sentence that that person put onto you sounded very much like what their parents would say to them. Oh, don't be silly. You can't do that. That's not, you're not deserving of that. You're not worthy of that. You can't do that. Oh, so they now have that fee. This is the projection. The relationship they have with themselves is the interpretation of what their parents said. They now believe. So they're looking at you and you're saying, I'm going to do this. They see you through their eyes and their beliefs and they go, you can't do that. They're talking about them.
Yeah. And this is why I think we discussed this the other day when we chatted, right? Is that one of the greatest books I think I've read this year is The Four Agreements. And the biggest reason is the second principle, which is nothing is personal. Be impeccable with your word, but nothing is personal. And the minute somebody can grasp that nothing is personal, right? And Wayne Dyer and Alan Watts talked about the lemon, that if I squeeze a lemon, I'm only going to get lemon juice from it, right? Whatever's inside is going to come out. So and it's the same thing of like, if I knock you and you're holding a cup of coffee and coffee spills, is it my fault that I knocked you, or is it the fact you've got coffee in the cup in the first place? And it's this whole idea that like, if you deal with the triggers, if you deal with the internal conflict, the unmet expectations and resentment, you can't be triggered, or you can see the trigger and you can.
I utterly agree, but I know where my journey is, and I didn't know. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's the compassion for everybody that doesn't know what you just said. And it's a journey to awakening to suddenly go, oh my God, everything that triggers me, everything that I get upset about, it's got nothing to do, i.e., don't take it personally. It's got nothing to do with what anybody says or does, because, and the extreme is, if you punch me and I have that much wisdom and compassion, I know that you are really hurting inside to have to project that pain onto me. So if I really was that enlightened, I could have immediate compassion and understanding, but still go, you fucker, damn, you're a fucker, but wow, you're hurting. So that's not taking a punch personally. When words are thrown at you, those words are of someone else's pain. If they affect me, thank you. It's not their words. It's what is left inside me from my childhood. What is the pain and hurt that triggers in me? And that's a new translation of navigating, not taking it personally. So what I'm saying here is there is a new understanding of what is going on. Again, the personal responsibility, which is this relationship with myself, because we've grown up not just in a world of everybody reacting and blaming everybody and taking it personally. We have TV and movies and novels saying that other people do this to us. They hurt me. They cause this pain inside me. So, oh, this is normality. And it really is a mass blindness to a completely different way of functioning in life.
So there's something I heard recently, which I think is really valid here to share, which is how you treat me is a reflection of you. How I let you treat me is a reflection of my self-worth. And I think what would be nice to talk about, David, is this idea around boundaries and like, how do I communicate internal boundaries with myself? So discipline, commitment, virtue. How does somebody understand where are they trying to go, why there, or what's driving that? And then what's the boundaries to understand along the way? Because everything we've spoken about so far is all around like you're really responsible for how you react and where you're going in life. So how does someone understand themselves enough to go, well, where do you actually want to go and why you want to go there? And in the boundaries that keep you true, or the values that keep you true to that journey.
Trying to discern everything you just said.
Deep.
Yeah, I know. Where do you want to go? What does that mean?
Well, if you think about the word virtue, whether you see it as a goal in life or whether you see it as why you were put here, whichever extreme, how do people understand where they want to go? And the reason I'm asking the question, if you think about what this person said to me, and I'm sure what people have said to you in the past, you have to have something going on with inside you of clarity of where you're going, so that when you get the negative comments or the bumps in the road, you can go, I hear what you're saying. I'm going through with or without you.
What comes up for me is the word purpose.
Yeah, virtue, purpose. Yeah.
And unfortunately, most people aren't driven by purpose. They're driven due to a system of the reward system. They're driven by a wounding of, let's just say, I'm not enough, I'm unworthy, I'm unloved, I'm unsafe. Let's just say those. So what do I now do? I'm driven to feel safe, to feel secure, to get worth, to get loved, and to feel safe outside of myself when those feelings are inside. So we can't really have a purpose, because let's put it this way. I'm going to try and say this. I thought that when I found acting, this is my purpose. This is what I want to do. But part of me thought that eventually I could have a stage to heal the world because I'll be a famous actor. That was actually a start of my purpose of wanting to serve. It was in there. It was like the seed. But then I started acting. Now, fast forward, I was doing well. My mother died. And all of a sudden, I lost all interest. So my drive to be an actor was, this is so classic. All right, do you know who Laurence Olivier is? He was one of the most famous actors of his day, before my time even. And when he was asked, why did he go into acting? He had this answer: look at me, look at me, look at me. Which was, validate me, mummy. Look, see, I'm worthy. See, I can do something. So what I'm saying is the wounding of seeking external validation will blur our need for our true deeper purpose. So what happens is, once we do the work and undo all of these woundings, and we realize that we've been externalizing our worth and our safety and our love, we suddenly come to a place where we go, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to serve people this way, and this is what I want to do for you know what happened there. The purpose comes from, again, my relationship to myself. Again, the word authenticity. When I lose the wounds, when I lose the character and the identity who's been driven that way outside myself, I lose that. Oh, who am I? There's this dark night of the soul. Who am I? Oh, hold on a minute. So I work on the inside, and now I find healing, and I find purpose, and I found wealth, and Now I get to give from that place instead of getting. There's a trying to get, and then there's a place of being full and giving. And they're very different. I think a lot of people feel they're all right, Gabor Mate, who's one of the brilliant minds at the moment, he was given away at 2 years old in the Nazi German camps. His mother saved his life by giving him away for 2 years. I think it took for her to come back, but he felt totally abandoned. So he got driven. His life purpose was driven to support and help people and become a doctor. So he would always feel needed, because he had a deep abandonment wound. So then when he realized that, he realized, wow, I've dedicated my whole life due to a wound. But then he realized his purpose can now continue from that into deeper understanding of wounds. So then he went into that understanding. So now his purpose through his wounding has become serving other people, where at first he was just trying to get external validation. Now, due to understanding that and doing his own work, he's now serving people understand their own wounds and traumas and blindness so that they can find their true purpose. There are very few people, there's more and more now, but there's few people who are working and living with purpose than there's more people trying to get, gain, and attain.
So I want to, in a second, I'm going to ask you the question, kind of the top 3 takeaways of the work. Let's just bracket it, the work you've done so far. But I want to share something. A story resonated with me the whole way through you were speaking. And it was actually my first ever cohort of delivering sales training to a group of 50 SDRs, graduates that joined one of the tech companies I trained. And I delivered a piece of training. And there was one particular girl in the group called Anna that she had deliberately taken a pay gap. She had been in Amazon for 3 years, and she deliberately said, I want to join this team, A, because of the training, but also I want to start again in my career. I'm going down the wrong path. And the training I delivered to Amazon was called The Feeling of Home, branded as Prospecting at Scale. And The Feeling of Home was written with 2 motives in mind: is how do I teach really good sales craft, not tactics or manipulation or control, just craft. How do I hold a conversation? How do I build the confidence to ask the right questions, when to ask them? But what it also combined was emotional intelligence of how do I listen to understand what somebody's actually saying? And funny enough, the first module was what we've been talking about. How do I listen to understand myself? How do I listen to understand what is going on inside of David, inside of Anna, as to why I work where I work? What's driving this? Because if you can understand what's driving this, you can understand what's driving your motive to sell and to speak to people. The reason I share this is Anna said something to me which has kept me in sales training to this day. She said to me, Alex, what you've helped me go and find confidence-wise in myself has given me 3 years of my life back. I wish I had this training when I first started. And what it got me thinking about was, instead of training people how to sell to other people, what if I got them to sell to themselves first on the journey they should go on in terms of self-discovery? So the reason I called the company Discover Phenomenal, right, is because the phenomenal only means remarkable. And we're all remarkable beings, providing we know why we're here. Yeah. Instead of playing somebody else's song, instead of playing somebody else's narrative, what happens if I tap into my own? And I thought, let's stay on this journey for long enough to make a bit of a difference. The only thing I've got to be careful is is it because there's a slightly deeper meaning underneath that, which is funny enough what me and you spoke about the other day, David, is that a lot of who I've become is because I wish I had this person. And that's really hard to sometimes battle, is because I'm constantly striving for the better version of me to mentor and guide. And I've got a few people around me. I've got you. I've got a guy called Mike Symes and a few other people.
But while that came out, the better version of you that you're striving to become exists in you. What is actually stopping that is the feeling that you are not that person.
Oh my! I'll quickly share something, and I live my life by metaphor, so I'll share this. Seeking to find love, or seeking to find a better version of yourself, is a negative action, because by seeking suggests that you do not already have it. So the only thing you can do is imagine you are already what you are striving to be.
I understand that, and that's the great philosophy of manifestation, is assume that you already are. And I agree with that, but the understanding from my journey now is I was an actor, so I can imagine being the greatest fucking human on the planet. I can be the king of all kings. I can be God. So, but that's the imagination. But like I said, it's who you already are, but it's the beliefs you've held your whole life against yourself that you're now striving to bypass and get to be better. You're already everything. This is what they say: you are that which you seek. And why am I not feeling that which I seek? So I'm seeking outside myself because you don't feel you're worthy or deserving or good enough. So I'm going to be better. I get that. How do I just identify the aspects of my personal relationship with myself that I've been holding my whole life against myself, that actually block this nature and purpose that is already within me of my innate, and what I say this word, the genie, yeah, the genie in the bottle,
Aladdin.
the genie, the genius, genie of us. There is a genie in us all, the genie of us, the genius. And we have corked ourselves with our beliefs that we are not good enough, with our beliefs that we are unworthy, that we're unsafe, that we're unloved from our childhood and our interpretations of our parents. So now, striving to be the better person, you're already the best you can be. Nothing you get, gain, and attain can do that. But doing the work to come back to your truth, then you shine. Because it's in all of us. This is our literally, and I'm not religious, but this is our God-given right to shine. And it's not on purpose, and it's no one's fault. There is, call it the 10,000 wounds. Every little child is raised like this. Shh, be quiet. Stop that. Don't do that. No, don't. Stop. No, stop. Be quiet. Don't do that. What have I told you? Don't do that. Don't. That's your shine. You can only interpret it as I'm too much, I'm not good enough, I'm not worth, this is not good, this is not good. So now we become small, it happens very young, and now we live with that, and then I want to do this, I want to be this. You're already it. This has got to undo. And it's an unraveling and a dissolving of all we believe we think we are to become all that we are. Yeah.
Bit of a mic drop moment there, David.
And I remember when, so here's one of my greatest teachers, he's an Englishman as well, Peter Crone. He calls himself the mind architect. And I had a very personal dealings with him with some private work. And, one of my mantras growing up was, I didn't ask to be born. It was that much hell that even as a kid, I said, I didn't ask to be born. And he said, actually, if you not believe in your soul's journey, you did ask for these parents, you did ask for this hell so that you could do this work and become the greatest fucking person that you could ever be. And I went, that's a fucking mic drop. Now, wow, I asked for this. I asked for these parents. I asked for the abuse. I asked for the pain. I asked for the violence so that I can become this. Okay.
When you here we go. So there's a woman called Sandy Murphy. She runs Nardi Wellness in Queenstown. And in 2018, I was traveling New Zealand for a little while, and I met her, and we were having lunch one day. And she said to me, Alex, were you born to your parents, or were your parents born to you? Were you given to your parents, or were your parents given to you? And it got me thinking, man. It got me thinking. I was like, whoa. Hold on a second. Because I remember I was 12 years old, and I remember my mum saying to me, I need you to be a big boy now. You need to be a big boy. You need to grow up and be a big boy. And I remember thinking a few years, probably 20, 21 after, I remember thinking, God, maybe I was the one that gave her the strength. Or maybe I was here to help find the strength to be and grow up and be the man that she needs, to be proud of herself or whatever it is. I don't know what the lessons may be yet, but yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a good question. I'm still pondering that.
Well,
21, I started asking.
This is the belief, what you said you were told about whether they were, you were given them or they were given you. And again, you know, the understanding of half the planet is reincarnation and the soul's journey. And we can't prove anything yet. There is corroborated evidence and proof all over the world, documented, corroborated, unbelievable evidence and truth of children telling of their past lives. And it's unbelievable the details that they talk about and how they talk about them. So now we have an unbelievable amount of evidence that there are little kids that are talking about their lives in France or blah 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 blah, and it's mind blowing. So all right, so now there is a past life aspect, and the natives and the indigenous and spiritual world and the Indians and everyone has been talking about this for thousands and thousands of years. Only the Western indoctrination of our religions have cut this out. Well, I understand why, because once you have people know that they're eternal beings, you lose your power over them because you can't use heaven and hell. Excuse me for those who are ruled by heaven and hell. Now, that being said, there is now also the communication and understanding that we have a curriculum and a karma that we either choose or that we are learning from lifetime to lifetime. And our parents apparently are part of that lesson. So, like I said, your mother and your father have been given to you for the lessons that your soul went, I want to learn this and I can learn these lessons, and you might not do it. You know, my brothers are not where I am, and you know they haven't done what they do with the effects, the symptoms of the causes which were our upbringing. I realized that they were a different age. My parents were at a different place in their relationship when they were born. And so we were all treated individually. No brother or sister is exactly the same. We all have a different relationship with our parents. It's just the way it is. We don't have the same parents, even though we have the same parents. What I'm saying is your journey and the lessons you get from your mother, whether your mother, let's say a mother is abusive and loud and violent like mine, my understanding is, I grew up then becoming full of pain and anger and resentment and hurt, which I then went through to getting expelled for violence and then went into drug taking. Guess what? For some reason, something clicked and I came out of that journey. And I am the man I am now. And I have love and compassion for my mother. All of that resentment, all of that anger is gone. And now I am a teacher to many and I assist others in the journey. So, wow, if my journey was to have this mother so that I could come to this, what a great schoolwork I've done to come to this. I could have continued in the pain and continued drug taking, and who knows, but I didn't. For some reason, there was a voice that said, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. So I can't say, but I believe that we have the parents we have, and I understand there's some very, very bad treatment. But the people I've talked to who have come to incredible compassion and forgiveness from their parents' journey, from their alcoholism, from whatever, now turn to serving humanity and becoming a greater human because of they would never have taken the journey if they hadn't have had that hell they went through. So, you know, if you look up the stories of the greatest people and some of the greatest saints, and even Abraham, Moses killed. He killed an Egyptian. Abraham was a killer. These they all went through a hellish journey to get to be the spiritual, brilliant humans that they are. So I believe that our parents can be our greatest teachers. So instead of hating and resenting and having things against them, go, what can I learn from this? What can I learn from them?
David, what a way to finish off the interview. And God bless you, my man. Thank you. Final two questions.
All right.
In a sentence or two, what are your top 3 best lessons or takeaways in the last 5 years? Summarized in a sentence or two.
I am the cause and the effect of me. You know, I am what I seek, and there's no place like home, and this is the home. It's very, very special to be able to just have this relationship with myself. Can't take this away from me.
I see you, man. It's good.
Someone said to me, I'm in so much pain. Is it worth it? I said, nothing worth anything is easy. And that's why it's worth it. And I look back of the journey and go, wow, if I'd known this was at the other end, I would have then not struggled as much. So, courage. The word courage comes from the French word coeur, which is heart. And the courage to go from this to here, the hardest journey in the world.
It's got the shortest distance.
Uh-huh.
I tell you something. I've got one final question for you, by the way, and it's a playful question.
Yeah.
I tried this exercise with I got a good friend of mine. His name's Joe Wyatt. He's battling 3 types of cancer right now, and we were up on a, well, it's not really a mountain. I don't think we have mountains in the UK. It's quite a steep hill in the UK called Snowdon. And,
mountain, but go on.
It's below 1,000 meters, so it can't legally, or it can't technically be called a mountain.
Okay.
It has to be over 1,000 meters to be called a mountain. So it's just a relatively steep hill. It's cloudy most of the time. Anyway, we had this exercise, and I'll share it with you now, and then I will ask you the final question. And the exercise is this. So, David, I'd encourage, hold your hands out in front of you like this.
Like this?
And yeah, that'll do. And do you know what box breathing is? 4 in, hold 4, out for 4. So you don't have to necessarily do this now. But if you think about box breathing, practice box breathing for 2 or 3 minutes. While you're doing that, though, just concentrate on your hands and start thinking about all of the things these hands have enabled you to go and do. The people you've held, the tears you've wiped, the holes, the plants you've dug, all the things these hands have helped you go and do while appreciating the breath. And what it's about, I remember me and Joe being halfway up Snowdon, and we were talking about his experiences and what he's going through. And I remember Joe saying to me about appreciating every day. And we run through this exercise on the side of this mountain. And I remember just looking at him and just sharing this moment of just looking at our hands and thinking, God, these hands have helped us do a lot. And it's quite a nice little exercise. And the box breathing really helps you, because I heard this thing the other day. A good friend of mine, Philippa Wilkin, gave me this saying. She said, you can't pick anything up from a gripped hand. And I thought, God, that's so... And she said, let go or you get dragged. It's so good. It's so good. Let go or you get dragged. How good is that?
And what can get into this? Open to receive.
Yeah.
It's funny, you just said that, and my head was going into, oh, what are these hands planted and done? And the one most beautiful thing was all the hugs that these hands have been part of.
Next time you hug someone, hug them for at least 3 seconds, because that's when oxytocin is.
This man is the greatest fucking hugger in the world. I am not. You are not going anywhere. And people
sinking.
They go and then they have tears in their eyes. I said, just stay where you are.
Yeah, and breathe.
Where you are.
Yeah.
This is going to be worth it.
Final question, David. Favorite dessert?
The final of the final questions.
Final. The 5th final. Let those tears out, man. They're good.
Yeah,
they're good. They're happy tears.
It's beautiful.
What's your favorite dessert?
Oh my God. It has to be a really good. I mean, I'm not one for sugar anymore because I've got to look after myself. But there is a bakery in my town. I live in a very small town in the canyon in California. And once every Sunday they open their bakery. And it's this kind of croissant cinnamon chocolate swirl, or almond croissant, fresh almond croissant. Fuck.
Yes.
That's-
We're going to.
What's yours?
Well, mine's the same actually. There's
Oh,
I'm going to Lagos soon, and they have this bakery called Black and White.
Okay.
And walk down there in the morning, get the dogs, and you go running or whatever, and then you go and get this almond croissant, and they're boiling hot. You got about 20 minutes for them to cool down. It's like liquid magma in there, and but yeah, these croissants are out of this world. Anyway, David, I've been blessed with 49 minutes of your life, man. I'm eternally grateful for you. I wish you all the success with what you're doing on Instagram. You're making waves. You're putting out real value. Thank you for sharing your love and gift with the world, my man. And I appreciate 49 minutes and 28 seconds of your life. Thank you.
30, 31, 32, 33 seconds.
There you go.
Thank you.
Up.
It's been an utter pleasure, and I continue hopefully with this relationship to build and be here for you whenever you need me, and vice versa. And